How is everyone? Greetings.
Good
Welcome
evening.
back.
Good
Good
evening.
evening.
Good,
Good evening.
good evening, everybody. You've
Yeah, good
Evening
evening.
to you.
you've come to
Yeah.
join us on this evening of discussing the
Mm.
arms
The
and
upper
how it
limb.
functions in our life. Mm, should be intriguing.
Hmm.
Should be an
Yeah,
intriguing
because
topic.
Intriguing.
Definitely.
Yeah. So last time it was lower limbs. Yeah, how did you find it? Hopefully you learned from that one. This time it's upper limbs. So we'll be going through a similar format, um, where I will start talking about the bones, talking about the muscles and the nerves, and then we can, yeah, relate it to some conditions as we go through, and yeah, give everyone the opportunity to ask some questions. Yeah, but how was everyone's day today? Um, has anyone got any arm injuries? Or is everyone arm pain free?
You can put
I
that
Yeah.
in.
have I have Issues, Crystal.
Okay. All right. What part of your arm is it?
The shoulder where the joint is, that
Okay,
that shoulder blade and that joint that connects the arm to the shoulder.
I see. That is the glenohumeral joint. Yeah, I'll be touching on that one. And as I go at the end, hopefully you understand more the anatomy. And then if you've got any questions, then we can go through it. And once we've talked about the anatomy, yeah.
But I was told that I wouldn't have much use of it. But what I found that
Hmm.
through the exercises of doing Tai Chi and all that, it
Hmm.
has it has been it is not as bad as what they suggested it would be.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
That's brilliant. It's the movement that we require to do. Yeah.
yeah.
We'll definitely discuss that as well, because it's essential to keep on moving even with limited movement, and to
Yeah.
breathe through the process and to reduce it down to a minimal and try to increase slowly.
Mm.
Because those consultants will write you off,
Definitely.
but they won't give you an alternative of how to manage it. They'll just write you off and say, okay, you'll never have full capacity movement with this. You'll have this problem. But bottom line is, all
Mm.
joints can be reused. You just
Yeah.
have to manage it.
And that's always what should always ring alarm bells when someone gives you one side of the story, because there's always two sides, we know.
Yeah.
Mm.
Because their side of the story is when they get to that situation, you're gonna have to live with it.
Mm.
You're gonna have to live with it. But that's not what you're saying there, Christos. We don't have to live.
No.
You're the other side of the coin, right?
Well, there's always two sides, no matter what way you look at it. I mean, that's just reality, two sides to every story. The good, the
Fine.
bad.
I'm gonna try and give a balance.
So, I mean, I've seen it and I've heard it all before. And what I've come to understanding is even working with, sometimes, insurance companies where they might not have a big understanding of the human body, they're governed, then they might be limited by other things, such as the cost of things or such as the usual ways of things which are just not working. The good thing is nowadays we're seeing a lot of so that's a good thing about social media, because the good thing about social media is you're seeing a lot of people kind of putting out their own research
Yeah.
without a filter, and I mean some of it is like you have to take it with a pinch of salt,
But some
but
of them are like laboratories, like an anatomical laboratories or clinics or places
mm,
where they do particular work and they're recording their stuff and doing it on social media.
Yeah, yeah, no, 100%,
It's impressive.
100%.
It's impressive what you can see now. You would only see that if you was either studying at that level or if you
Mm,
were doing a course and you went to visit one of these labs and you end up working with a
mm.
cadaver and you're observing the dissection of the body and you get a chance to handle it. But now you see that on a 30
Yeah,
second TikTok or a 30 second on an Instagram. You go watch that on YouTube. It's amazing.
yeah. So again, there's more evidence being put forth. You know, the
Definitely.
everyday person or everyday professional is a reporter now,
Yeah.
and evidence is evidence, you know. So I use a lot of evidence um, when I'm practicing because a lot of the time I will take a video of a joint, let's say a joint swollen, I'll take a picture. This is my favorite ones is take a picture, they have a certain range of motion, do a little bit of treatment, take a picture, full range of motion, you know. And I've got the evidence, and no one can dispute the evidence because I've got it there, and I've got a database of these type of evidence. And that's what, you know, they say when you do something, it's the ability to, I forgot the right words, but basically the
Evidence based.
ability to do something consistently, you know, is, you know, it's evidence. You know, when you can reproduce something or put someone through a treatment plan for a condition and not one
Reproducible.
person benefit. Yeah, so many people go through the same process. Then
And
you know,
take
you
that
know, man,
and you can take that approach and someone else can apply the same approach and have the same outcome, achieve the same benefit.
yeah, yeah,
That's the whole
that,
point of having that evidence-based movement that you're doing there, of taking picture and analyzing stuff in that manner there, that you have
mm,
a systematic way of alleviating a particular condition with evidence.
yeah,
That's,
yeah,
you know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah. And
That's what we need to do in this modern era.
well, this is where things, and we're going to see a lot more evidence of it's already been done in the Pilates world, where Pilates is practiced by so many people because it helps to build up their core and stuff like that. And we're yet to see and really appreciate, which I think there's even more benefits of, even in the Tai Chi world. You know, when we start
There's loads of
really
research though. Come on,
appreciating,
Christos. There's
huh?
loads of research. You've given me so much research in the past.
No, no, not in that way, but it's research, not research, but practical. Because when you're looking at practical, you see something like Pilates, where there's 34 exercises. I mean, you can't go wrong with them. It's just 34 exercises. You know, it can take time to build up on the progressions and that, but you're really dealing with 34 things you can standardize.
Well, they've done that with Tai Chi, like Bao Dao Jin. A lot of those
Yeah.
research papers are like just going through the Bao Dao Jin, nine of those movements there, and then a
Mm,
variation of one or two of them, because it depends upon what research project is doing it, depend upon how they actually do the routine. But there might be one or two movements different, but it's
mm,
still nine movements, and it's still the static, and it's still
yeah,
so there's, but that's in the qi, in that world qigong,
yeah.
in the
But the thing,
qigong. But the Tai Chi side though,
mm,
I haven't seen much evidence-based research in the Tai Chi.
well, and there's a good reason for that. It's much more complicated to learn. There's
Yeah,
more elements. So
yeah.
you can do something like Qigong and you can break down the static postures, and it's easy to examine that one. It's easy to measure. But I mean, I know just by even practicing, I mean, I've everything else I've done, whether it's gym training, whether, you know, I'm getting the hang of Pilates and stuff. But it's relatively, for me, easy to learn.
Can I say that
Hmm.
the NHS is using parts of Tai Chi and Qigong, but they're not calling it that. They're calling it mindfulness and they're
You see
modifying
that?
it where they're not even practicing it properly. because I've experienced that. And when I was doing the
Yeah.
movement properly, she looked at me and she had to correct herself because she herself, who was showing people, was doing it incorrect.
Mm.
So it is in the NHS. They're calling it something else, and then they're modifying it into a Western way, but it's not correct because then the parts you're trying to work on is not being done accurately. So you're not really getting the true benefit. They do the marrow washing, they call it something else as
Yeah,
Mm.
well.
they're doing the
I
bone marrow
experienced the
washing.
marrow, they did marrow washing, but they do it in a different way, very simplified. To me, it doesn't really have much benefits.
Mm.
But again, because I am aware of it, I know what they were practicing wasn't the full story.
Yeah.
So it is out there. It's just that they're calling it different names because, us Westerners, we like to capture other people's cultures and say that it was us who invented it. So they're in the process of reinventing
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
movements, call it their own.
And the thing is, they what is it? They create, is it secular? Is that how they term it? They take out
No,
the spiritual element out of it, and then it becomes
maybe that's
more
what
of a
it is.
mechanical.
Because it is not the same kind of feeling when they're doing it. There's no preparation in advance to do it. They just put down their notes and say, right, we're going to be doing a bit of this, and then they get into it and bam.
Yeah, yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah, can I just say as well, yeah,
Yeah,
Sankofa, hi.
that's angle.
There's been a lot of media coverage about Tai Chi, like this Michael Mosley. He's been like presented a few documentaries about the benefits of Tai Chi and was advocating for people to go to classes so that actually, as well as renaming it, like Helen was just saying, I think they are also acknowledging and naming Tai Chi having profound impact, not obviously on mental health and on physical well-being. And I know there are a few books and lots of research evidence. There's more and more coming out of China, being done in the States and here, about postures and certain connecting, certain flowing through certain movements that are having these effects on the brain. They do, brain scans, they monitor, all the vital signs and everything. And they see that people who don't do these particular movements, they don't have the positive outcomes that people do who are, so there's a mountain of research becoming available.
It's mounting up. It's true. It is building up.
Yeah, definitely. Because it's not just about a form, is it? They are like refining certain movements, like identifying certain movements and making them repeat them more. So yeah, I have a couple of books that show
Delve into
certain
that.
forms.
Yeah, yeah, because I have a few as well, expressing the energetics and connecting the mind or the brainwave patterns that take
Mm.
the shift in brainwave. And a lot of that is connected to the breath. And I think that with
Mm.
bringing it into the NHS, just like how yoga was introduced back in the 70s, they never brought the breath work into it. They
Mm.
brought in a series of different movements. I mean, they just done the movement. So then it was kind of like disconnected from the original form. And I think that's all that's really going on here with the
That's right.
it's the breath. We do all them arm movements. You can do arm movements all day. And them arm
It's
movements
true.
aren't going to have the benefit that we experience in Tai Chi because we do the movement with the breath.
With the breath, yeah, absolutely.
And
Yeah.
different breaths activating different pathways and energy lines, therefore having an amazing effect on us.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is what we're really, really looking to do deeper research into
Yeah,
the
yeah,
connection of the
definitely.
breath and different body movements
Mm.
and seeing how quick we shift through alpha, theta. Wow, wow. Back to gamma would be amazing. Imagine hitting gamma while doing a movement. Because most people hit gamma brainwave either deep in sleep, deep in meditation. You know, when you go like 20 odd years of practicing meditation, those monks there,
Mm.
when they go into meditation, they put the things on their head. They find that they oscillate at a gamma frequency, which is highly movement, a lot of movement going
Mm.
on, but it's calmness and stillness in that space there for creativity. But then all these things are possible through moving and breathing in a certain way as well. And that's what we need to unlock.
Mm.
That's the alchemy of the body. That's magical. Mm-mm.
All right. Well, that
Oh,
that
you
was a
ready?
nice. Oh no, I'm always ready.
Yeah. Let's
That was
begin
just a
then.
nice conversation to get us warmed up.
Yeah, man, definitely. Okay, so let's go into our the arms.
Yeah, so I'll go into the presentation. It's not so long the presentation, but that will give us the opportunity to ask questions and go back onto certain areas that we want clarification. I tried to do it a little bit different this time. Last time I was talking to you like as I was going through the bones. This time I done a bit of pre-recording. You can let me know at the end what you find a little bit better, and then I'll do it whatever way you guys suggest in the future. But yeah, let me share the screen. All right, so the upper limb. So what we'll do, I'm going to talk about the bones of the upper limbs, the muscles of the upper limbs, and then we'll go through the nerves. Yeah. So hopefully. Okay, so we got three bones in the upper limbs: the humerus, the radius, and the ulna. Remember, when we're talking about upper limb, we're separating the shoulder in this case. So we're not specifically talking about the whole shoulder joint, including our scapula. We're just going to talk about the humerus part, the radius, and our ulna. Yeah. So let's go. And let me know if you have trouble hearing it. So what we're going to do, we're just going to have a look at the bones of the upper limbs. So the first bone we're going to have a look at is our humerus bone. The upper part of our humerus bone makes up the shoulder joint, whereas the lower part of the humerus bone makes up the elbow joint. The rounded part of our shoulder is known as the humeral head. Even when we're looking at this humeral head here, we can see that it's a ball and socket joint. And this is the part that goes with our scapula, that glenoid cavity, and then that creates that smooth, that shoulder joint. But the ball and socket allows that 360 degrees movement in all planes. The bottom part of our humerus makes up our elbow joint. And then as we can see that little groove there, because that's either part where the elbow, or I should say, when we're looking at the forearm, there's that part of our ulna, which actually locks in that little notch there. And that's a now we're going to take a look at the bones that make up our forearm. The first bone we're having a look at is our radial bone. or this is a bone that is generally closer to our thumb when we're looking at our hand. The next bone is our ulnar bone. This is the bone that when we touch our elbow, this is a bone that we can feel. And that's that top part right there that makes up that solid elbow part. Now we're going to have a look at the bones in our hand. I went a little bit ahead of myself because we shouldn't be looking at the bones of the hand. That's for the next time. So, okay. So, just to make sure everyone was paying attention, how much bones do we have in our upper arm or our arm?
3.
3, okay. No, that's good. Yeah, that was the main question. Can anyone name them?
Ulna.
Owner 1. And with the owner, what feature of the ulnar bone, or what's important about the ulnar bone? Can you name one feature of the ulnar bone? So what joint it makes up?
It makes up the elbow.
Yeah. So yeah, no, that's perfect. So what we're gonna do, we're just gonna have a look at. So let's go onto the muscles. There's quite a few muscles in the arm. When we're looking at like the wrist extensors, there's quite a few in this category. We're just going to name them as a group because group-wise they do the same activity, yeah. And then we're just going to focus on the main muscles that we should be aware of, the biceps and the triceps. And I'm going to mention another one of the upper arm. But let's go forward. All right, so we're going to look at the muscles of our arm. So the first group of muscles we're going to have a look at is our triceps muscles. Yeah, so tri means 3. That's because the triceps have 3 heads. As we remove the humeral bone, we can have a look. So we can see the medial head of our triceps, the lateral head of our triceps, and then we've just got one more. And that last one is our long head of the triceps, where the other 2 triceps muscles, they're attached to the humeral bone. The long head is actually attached into the shoulder joint. Okay, so we got our brachialis muscle, which is underneath our biceps. And we've got our long head of our biceps muscle, and then the short head of our bicep muscle. The long head of the bicep muscle attaches to our shoulder joint, where the short head of the bicep muscle attaches to a part deep within the front of our shoulder area called the coracoid process. Yes, so that coracoid process is right in between. If we put our hands on our shoulder, and as soon as we kind of roll it in and then push deep within that front part of our arm or our body, just between the arm and the trunk or our pecs, deep within that structure, that's where you get the coracoid process. Apologies, I didn't really show it well in the video, but that's a place which is, if you really dig deep, is attached. And all of the muscles I'm just going to show you, the muscle. All right, so we're going to look at all of those muscles at the front of our arm, basically help us bend our elbow. Short head of the bicep muscle attaches to a part deep within the front of our shoulder area called the coracoid process. Now, we're just going to show you the muscles that make up our forearm. At the front, medial side, the inside, front inner side, we have all our wrist flexors. And these muscles help us flex our wrists, bend the wrist towards our body. And when you're looking at all these muscles, where they attach to the inside of our arm, this is the point where we can get like golfer's elbow. Golfer's elbow is not just people that play golf, but anything repetitive strain that will cause pain on the inside. And all these muscles that attach to the bone on the inside, they can become strained, the tendons. And then they become strained. That's what we will call either lateral epicondylitis or, sorry, not lateral, medial epicondylitis or golfer's elbow. Yeah, so that's what we're referring to. And these are the muscles that are affected by the golfer's elbow. But we're mainly talking about the tendons and attachment. And in some clients, what you will find is that area becomes very noduly. And, you know, when you're touching it, it becomes very painful. Tools help us flex our wrists, bend the wrists towards our body. On the outside, we have all our wrist extensors, and these muscles help us to bend our wrist away from our body. Yeah, so extend our wrist and bending backwards. Yeah. All right. So let's have a look at the nerve. So the brachial plexus, as you will see, is where all the nerves kind of coming out from the neck. They bundle around this region here, and then they become their individual nerves. And then we're going to look at the radial nerve, the ulnar nerve, and the medial nerve. So yeah, that's meant to be radial nerve. Apologies. All right, so just going to have a look at the nerves in the arm. As you can see right at the top, these are the bundle of nerves called the brachial plexus, and these nerves are all coming from our neck. Now, if we turn our palm facing forward, we can see that on the inside of our arm is the ulnar nerve, and this is the nerve that passes so close to the inside of the elbow. That's why when we bang this part, sometimes we can get instantaneous tingling. This nerve supplies our little and our ring finger. All right, so this nerve, the median nerve, this goes basically down the middle of our forearm. And a lot of problems can happen with this nerve around the level of the wrist, where people can get carpal tunnel syndrome. And as you can see, there's a lot of things around the wrist that can impinge and squash that nerve. Things like repetitive strain injury, and things like the forearm getting very tight. All of these things can crowd that median nerve. This nerve supplies our thumb, our index, and our middle finger. Then we've got the musculocutaneous nerve, and this nerve supplies the lateral part, which is the outside part of our forearm. All right, so just gonna have a look. Yeah, when we look, oh, I missed that one with my bad editing skills. The last one I missed out, I'll show you here anyway. So yeah, the radial nerve goes to the back of the arm. And then that nerve there supplies the triceps, and that helps us extend our arm. So when we're looking at nerves in general, nerves are very simple to figure out, because if we're wondering like what part of the body does a nerve supply, we just need to look at where it runs, you know. And the closest things where it runs to is basically the structures that it's going to affect. So if we're looking at the radial nerve, for example, and then if I add the tricep muscle, we can see that the nerves are running right next to the triceps. So in that sense, where it's running close to it, that's what it's going to supply. So we can take that principle for all the muscles when we're looking at even like the fingers. So as I was talking about where it supplies, we can see that the ulnar nerve is running very much on the inside. So again, then that's going to supply the little fingers, that's going to supply this finger, where the median nerve will supply that middle part. And then when we're looking at the radial nerve, we're looking at it supplying the thumb, a bit of the index finger, and sometimes they share different parts of the same muscle. So, for example, when you're looking at the femoral nerve, you will go into much detail of the leg, but that's just an example. We can see that it will supply a little bit of the front of the leg, but we also see that it will supply anything that is very close by it. And that's the same principle for all nerves. Wherever you see the nerve running, that's the area it's going to supply. If you're looking at it from a basic anatomical point of view, you just look at the course and that's that's the muscles that it will supply. Again, sciatic nerve, same principle. It supplies the back of the legs, but again, portion of the adductors are close by, so then it's going to supply a bit of the adductors as well.
Excuse me, Christos. Sorry. Could you clarify what you mean by supply? Because usually I heard that expression in relation to blood vessels, but for the nerves, can you just clarify for me?
So, no, you're right. It's mainly used in blood vessels, but we can say innervate for nerves, but supply, innervate, we're basically talking about it stimulates that area. So the sciatic nerve, it provides stimulation to the hamstring muscles. Our blood vessels will supply an area with fresh blood. So that's what I mean by supply.
Okay, that makes it clearer. Thank you.
Innovate, supply, provide. Yeah, these are all interchangeable words. But you are correct. We usually hear supply in terms of blood. And I would say the correct terminology, if we're being scientific, we would say innovate for the nerves. So yeah, thank you for that question. All right. So going back to, so that was actually, that's the end of that presentation. Any other questions at all? Let me bring my...
Christos, where does the nerves start from? I can see it's leading up in the neck, but where does it originate from?
That is, I'm going to show you, that's the spinal cord.
Okay.
And then we're looking at the spinal cord, we're looking at the brain as well.
Okay.
So if I take away some of the structures here, we can see, and then zoom in, we can see that all of these, I don't know if it's going to show me a cross-sectional area, but we've got our spinal cord here. Let's bring that back. So yeah, we got the spinal cord and the brain. This is known as our central nervous system. And then as they branch out, they become our peripheral nervous system. Now, when you're looking at it from a scientific or point of view, the general rule is if you damage the central nervous system, it doesn't recover, and it doesn't recover well at all. Whereas if you damage the peripheral nervous system or the peripheral nerves, there's a process that happens where it can kind of patch itself up again. So this is where things like strokes can be very detrimental, because you've got a part of the brain that's been damaged, And even with stroke, before they was actually saying that the function that people gain after stroke is limited, and they used to say there was a 3 month window. I personally think that 3 month window had a lot to do with finances and stuff like that, in terms of providing care for, a population where so many people are suffering or will suffer from a stroke. So I think a lot of that rule came from that, where what we're actually seeing is that, the brain will make good changes and it will make good adjustments in the healing process. But when we're looking at the central nervous system, we're looking at, for example, messages being, thought pattern. We might think, okay, I want to pick up this pencil, or I want to pick up this bottle, and you will get the electrical stimulation, that thought pattern being converted through the electrical signals that will run down our spinal cord, and then that will come out from our spinal cord, which you can see kind of here, and then that will relay. I'm just going to take this one just so it's easier to explain. So this is a little bit more difficult compared to using my iPad. That's why I pre-recorded it, because I can't easily move this guy. All right, there it is. The other recordings were done from the iPad. It's just a little bit easier to move the diagram. But what we got here, so message coming from the spinal cord, and then it going off into our peripheral nerves, and the impulses through action potentials going down the nerves. And then let's say if we wanted to move our arm backwards, then it will go down the radial nerve, and then we will get that extension. So all the movements are coming basically from the brain and the spinal cord.
Yeah, the cerebellum.
Yeah. Well, the cerebellum, that part is usually dealing with the
Coordination,
balance and the coordination. Yeah.
movement.
Um, what we see with the central nervous system is we know what part of the body has been affected based on how the body presents itself. So if I see, without even knowing the full diagnosis, but if I see someone walking down the road and they're having coordination problems, and they've said that they've had a stroke, I know that that stroke they've had has been in the cerebellum.
Yeah.
Person said they had a stroke and they have visual problems, I know they're going to have that stroke around the occipital lobe. If they have problem with thinking, planning, I know then that part of their stroke is going to happen in the frontal cortex. So depending on the part or the manifestation of their symptoms, I'll be able to tell as a physio more than likely what part of the brain has been affected. These days, we can do a little bit better. We don't have to wait for me to, you know, see clinically reason what part of the brain's been affected, because we have all our fancy MRIs, which will tell us, and it will correlate to the symptoms. Yeah. Yeah. Did I answer that question right? Kind of went into a different train of thought.
But the diagram
So,
is
so are you saying that let's move a little bit further now. So when you go to sleep at night and you sleep badly on your shoulder, your neck and shoulder are not balanced, you
Yeah.
can actually set off the nerve that can affect your fingers, your forearm. The whole thing can become numb, and you can actually end up with tingling in the fingers because of the posture of your pillows and stuff like that. Then, if the nerve is coming through the neck
Mm.
into the shoulder, this is where we sleep, isn't it? On our upper shoulder.
No, you're 100% right. I don't think yeah, you said it good. I don't think I could have said it any better. That is correct. And because in this region here, you've got the brachial plexus. So a lot of the time when we're sleeping, we can add a lot of tension to the neck, and then we can overstretch or strain all that region in a very awkward angle. Now, when we're looking at general pain that we feel, let's say you bang your leg, we will call that somatic pain. And that's the type of pain that you'll get the inflammation, it will feel a little bit aching, you might get a deep ache. But this specific pain or anything affecting the nerves, that's called nephrotic pain, and that type of pain is, oh no, I said it wrong. That's neuropathic pain. I'm thinking of the medication, naproxen. Excuse me. Time of the evening.
Yeah, I was wondering about that term there. They use offering.
But yeah, that type of pain is very specific. That pain you will feel burning, tingling, a numbness. That is to do with the nerves being directly affected. Yeah. So anytime you get these symptoms, it's something to do with the nerves. So when people come into the clinic and we ask them about their pain, if they're getting tingling, if they're getting numbness, if they're getting any of these sensations, then we know the nerve has been compromised somehow.
Okay, you know what I'm thinking now, right?
Mhm.
If so be the case, when you go to the hospital, they say you've got carpal tunnel syndrome. They do a series of tests there,
Mhm.
but they don't connect the shoulder to the wrist. They only look at the wrist.
Yeah, that could be literally a time thing, but I mean, are you talking about when you're in senior GP?
Now, when
Or
you're actually seeing the professionals who deals with the hands and stuff like that, I've
no.
I've I've gone through their process of that, and they don't connect the the nerve in the neck
I think
Yeah,
to to
department.
the hand.
yeah. I mean, the proper way, I mean, yeah, I think it's really just a time thing they've got. And I think when you're dealing with, anywhere you have to go like NHS where you have got a 20-minute appointment or a 10-minute appointment, they're only going to really focus on where the symptoms are.
Yeah.
When you go to someone like me and Sahu, we want to know the whole story.
But that
We
would be
want
what, a hand specialist that you're referring to there, or is that a physio?
That's a hand specialist.
Yeah, because they're going to specialize the hand. That's the problem. They're not going to look in the cervical or along the clavicle.
Mm. And from what I understand, the hand specialists, I don't know if I'm wrong, but my colleagues that worked in that department, they were physios.
Hmm.
It was just in the hand department, so to speak. But again, like Sahu was saying, there, it could be a thing where they're just literally looking at the hands. Maybe they've got some splints and they're working with occupational therapists, and that's
Hmm.
just on the hand.
I think that's what they would be doing, Christos.
Hmm.
They're not doing no further. I think they would assume that the evaluation for it to get there has already been done. And the cervical and all them spinal stuff, tests of MRI has all been done. And they're
Yeah.
just there to support the rehabilitation of the hand.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah.
Hmm.
Sometimes because when you've got the freedom to practice a little bit more freely and more holistically, sometimes it's hard to answer the questions because you're in the back of your mind, you're always thinking, well, okay, I know they're hand specialists, but maybe they should, but I'm not in that environment anymore, so I don't want to give pressure to the colleagues in that environment, but
But
could be the case.
any
It's
pressure,
just
go on.
it's just a thought, just watching the diagrams, seeing how the nerves work, and then sometimes you don't even need extensive surgery. Sometimes it's the correction at the upper part.
Definitely, definitely. Whether it's at the clavicle, whether it's at actually the cervical where it comes out of the spinal cord. So
Mm,
between the vertebrae there, or whether it's at the clavicle, or whether it's at the shoulder, or whether it's at the elbow and the wrist.
mm,
These are like the major compression points. Any other point between that will be like muscular tension, muscular
yeah.
strain or something that's going to irritate the nerve. Because the nerves are very vulnerable in the inner part of on the inner part of the bicep. And they're very vulnerable.
Mm,
That area there,
it is.
the inner part of the elbow, it's like that inner part, yeah, as Christos is showing there, sensitive. You got to know you're managing that part there. And I'm sure you mentioned that
Got to
earlier on
look
as
at
well.
how vulnerable that area is.
Because you can twang that underneath that bicep there, that internal one there, on the left hand side. You can just come along there and just feel. You see it there? You can see the nerve. You can feel it. As like twang, you can do it yourself,
Yeah, and you can feel the when you compress it.
and it feels like a thick tissue or thick cord, and because it is. So it's very vulnerable, all up in the shoulder there, in the front, compressing. See in between. It's that cobrachialis and glute medius. So
Oh,
not glute medius, sorry, pectoris minor.
yeah. So all on the inside you're looking at. Yeah. So that's the coracoid. So that's what I was talking about before, the coracoid process. And then if I let me
Yeah,
just
the
show you.
muscle, the tendon, if irritated, is compressing that brachial plexus there, right there. Another vulnerable spot. That's what
And
we're practicing loosening the shoulders.
because remember, there's even when we're looking at the shoulder, just because of the nature of it, there's it offers so many areas for problems to occur, and a lot of the time what we also see is as these muscles, if they become weak or because of posture and problems, and then that humeral head is less stable and starts, slipping away a little bit or subluxing, or if we're doing a lot of throwing sports, we can already see how that even dropping slightly, that can cause extra strain and extra stress. And then we've got the neck, and when we're looking at the neck and we're looking at the tension that usually builds up, that can further add that area being a little bit more compromised based on what we're doing. We can lift things in the wrong way, and then we can put extra strain, extra stress, extra shearing pressure on the nerve. So the shoulder joint in general and that whole neck region, yeah, it can be a big problem. And I often see a lot of problems in people that are doing a lot of weightlifting and stuff like that, the shoulder press, and who's done it to a degree where there's significant muscle imbalance. So I had a gentleman, and this gentleman, he was really, really, big, very muscular. but his whole training technique, his whole form was very one-dimensional. He wasn't focusing on all the other muscles, balancing out the, rotator cuff muscles, keeping them strong. He wasn't looking at the muscles that will help bring his shoulders a little bit back. And eventually he generated so much tension around the area. And, a few bad moves later, that whole area was stressed. And as a result of the stress and the tension, he was getting significant pain, tightness, lots of pins and needles, tingling, etc. And he had gone and seen a few other therapists before me. And I had to really make him appreciate, you know, how he had to really restore that area holistically. And he couldn't just think of it in a one-dimensional way because that just wasn't helping. So he had to gradually get the shoulders in the right position, gradually release the tension, strengthen up the neck, and until the point where he was fine. But sometimes depending on the level of strain on the nerves, these are going to take usually a little bit longer to heal than the muscles because again, with the problem occurring, you're probably going to have to work on the muscles anyway, as well as working on the nerves. And that's why generally, as you can see with the nerves and everything being so connected like the superhighway, we do a lot of neurodynamic stuff where we're getting the nerve and encouraging the nerves to slide. And that's just by moving the neck, moving the hands in a certain manner, which will allow that gliding action and freeing up of the nerves. Yeah. Any other questions? Did that answer your question, Helen? And yeah, no, thank you for your input. Because
Yeah, that was really helpful.
yeah, no, it sounds like you've got it though, definitely. Even just the way the statements you've made. It is a holistic system, and everything is connected. And the beauty about the body is, you know, we don't have to focus on 100 different problems that are happening. We just have to focus on that one method of keeping ourselves well. And when we're looking at things like rehab process, we start doing exercise, and I might give a client isolated exercises to help improve the strength, help get rid of the pain. But then eventually you're looking at things like, on the holistic scale, you're looking at things like Tai Chi to one, prevent the problem, but also help you recover through problems, you know. And these things are a little bit more enjoyable. After a while, you give someone a physio program or you give someone an exercise program, and especially the rehab ones, and once people are better, they don't feel like there's any need to continue. And there is a need to continue exercises and ensuring that you're strong and ensuring that the muscles are stable. But realistically, for most people, the only way they're really going to achieve that is by making it fun and interesting. And then this is where anyone that's been through a program of exercise, whether physio, etc., it's important that you continue some elements of the program kind of for life. But even better, if you can do something like the Tai Chi that will help you do these things in a more enjoyable manner over a period of time, which is basically forever, then that's a good thing because things like Tai Chi, I mean, it looks like looking at all the masters, the greatest thing about it is it looks like people get better as they get older. So that's just the thought anyway. Is there any other questions?
Can I just ask, Christos, is there a difference between golfer's elbow and tennis elbow?
Yes, it is. Not much of a difference. The only difference is base. So I'm going to just charge up my laptop. The only difference is location. So it's exactly the same thing, but one is happening. One is happening on the inside, which is the golfer's elbow. And can you see all these muscles here?
Mhm.
All these tendons where you see it becoming a little bit white. This is where golfer's elbow would happen. So that's if we face our palm outwards, so the thumb's facing away from our body, and we're looking at the inside of our elbow. Whereas the tennis elbow is just happening on the other side. Yeah. And can you see all these muscles here? Yeah. And can you see there on the outside? So from the back, again, from facing outwards, we can see that this is on the outside. And all here is where the tennis elbow will happen. And I think someone named it that way because, yes, more, even though it's not just specifically subject to tennis players, but where tennis players are kind of doing more backhands and overstretching their arms in the outwards motion when they're hitting the ball. And then the golfers are more kind of an inward swing. And although it's not subjected to, but there's a high proportion of golfers that get golfers at elbow. But it's basically the inside for golfer's elbow and then the outside for tennis elbow. But same mechanism. So you could be doing typing a lot on a computer, repetitive strain, and that can give you a little bit of tennis elbow. Maybe if you're in the gym and you're doing a lot of pull-ups and stuff, where you're having to do a grip and more flexion of the arms or the wrist, then you're gonna more than likely get golfer's elbow. But yeah, you can get tennis elbow playing golf and golfer's elbow playing tennis. Just
I used to get a really bad pain in the elbow, which was exacerbated by carrying heavy shopping.
yeah,
And
yeah.
it felt as though it was like from the middle. So I can't tell if it was more on the inside or more on the outside, like you're describing. And I would get tingling, a whole way down the forearm and into
Oh,
the hand.
what did you get the tingling in any finger per se?
Ooh, I haven't had it for a while, but maybe not. Maybe I can't remember a specific finger as such. No.
Yeah, because depending, because remember again, and this is can be a problem when we're looking at isolating the body too much.
Mm,
Usually, if there's a problem here, there could easily be a problem here, and that
mm,
being, everything being connected. Um, Maybe there might have been something wrong with the median nerve where this was so tight that could have been causing some of the tingling. Um, but yeah, everything can kind of intertwine into everything else, which can make it very difficult. Sometimes you've got to catch it, write it down, analyze what's happening in that moment, and
mm,
something that will give you a little bit more clarification. Yeah,
yeah.
that's the difference between the two anyway.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Uh, right, we answered that one. Where does the nerve start from? Yeah, any other questions? Or I think, yeah, we should move on actually into Sahu's presentation, see what he's got in store for us.
Looking more into the energetic aspect of it, even though we're going to touch the same way into some of these muscles and thing, but we have got a nice clarity of this now, of the nerve innervations, the movements of the arms and the muscles, how different parts of the body can cause pain, depending upon how the nerve or the circulation, even the lymphatic system, is affecting that space there. So as we go looking into it now, into a more energetic manner, let's say a more spiritual way, as we like, because spirit's a funny term to use. When we talk about spirit and we say in a spiritual manner, we're really talking about the breath. We have two ways of looking at spirit, and spirit initially is a term meaning breath. Then we have the term taken on by religion, spirit, or so-called spiritual people, or people who practice a certain religious way of life, and then they are said to be spiritual. But then we find that people who practice religions are not spiritual. Yeah, so we have this thing going on. It's the breath, always the breath. And as we're connecting with the arms, we look to the stars and we find that there's a representation of our anatomy out there in the heavens. An image of an arm and a hand, almost like he's grabbing a crown. This is this is taken by NASA, 2014. And you know, we can adjust stuff, but that image on the left, even though we're talking the hands another time, still connected this. So when we're looking into the stars, we know these people here, the ancient Kemetic people, these the old ones, they revered the heavens and they put everything into a beautiful tapestry or on the walls or on a papyrus to make us appreciate certain things. And we always see that the arms are used in a certain way, whether it's given reverence, as we see Akhenaten down on the bottom left there. And we have two different depictions of him. One like he's holding a vessel, and another one where he's like a lotus. Then we have on the top left there, the idea of energy coming from the sun. And through that, we absorbing this energy and it refilling our, rejuvenating our being. But we can see on that top left one there, that her hands are slightly raised in a similar position and fashion. Then we have the image in the center, and it can be looked in two different ways. We have Horus there, and you have the female behind him with her hands up. Now this can be healing, or it can be also sending energy. Projecting energy through and to another person. Then you have the same. You see, it's interesting how we use our arms in a certain way. You have Ma'at on the bottom right, which is interesting, where we have the feathers and the wings. We have the wings, the arms transform into wings, where we have feathers underneath it, which this is expressing being able to obtain a certain level of awareness, finding, it means to soar high, to soar heavenly, to be able to ascend, to be able to see things from an aerial view. That would be what we would call like a ma'at, balance, this perception here. But we also have this wing concept, also biblically, where we have this idea of being protected underneath the arms. So we have this theme from this old era. We have this theme from this old era. That comes through to this modern era. We also have here the matrimony between two, the female and the man, the way in which the hand is held up. And this is a giving and a receiving of energy And then we also have here, as the final one, Anubis, using the arms to project or to place the hands upon the body. And we have this in many cases. So we have a range of movement here going on with the arms of expression. So we have a lovely depiction, which is going back the 2nd century, where we see a range of arm different positions and the hands also used in a certain expression. These arm position and hand positions all aid in producing a certain type of energy flow, a certain energy that is emanating from the spine and along the arms and to the end point in the hands, where it's redirected back up through the body to the brain. So we have these practices that have been going on for a good time. The other thing we got going on now with the arms is this show of strength and power. So we've gone through this concept of reverence and praises, and now we're observing strength and power through the arms. One of the greatest expression of this is demonstrated through the Hindu deities, where they have multiple arms. And these multiple arms here are representing different things. They generally have different objects, different ornaments, different things in different hands, representing different powers. Then we have this deity here with 4 heads, and I think she got like 1,000,000 arms. I think this is as much arm they could have put on it to represent the 1,000,000 of arms of the 1,000,000 things that are manipulative. The many things we can manipulate. This is like expressing no escape. Yeah, literally. I say no escape because it's like the multiple arms are representing of different realms, different options, different choices, different possibilities. This is like saying that it's all knowing and all seeing. When you observe something like this with the multiple arms. One of the most well-represented deities, Kali and Durga. Kali and Durga. I know they look very similar, but they're different. 2 different, Kali, the whole story is that she transformed into this creature, let's say, because she is in a human form in her natural state. She transformed because of the death of her child. And the only way that she could be subdued or calmed was by Shiva. Is it Shiva or is it Vishnu? I think it's Shiva, laying down at her feet. And as a result, she transformed back to her normal state. But she's always depicted with multiple arms, different weapons to destroy mankind. It's like an ultimate destruction deity. So we're expressing power, strength, but also, generally, when it comes to sacrifice, that this is Tyr. And Tyr, the story of Tyr, is from Asgard. And this is Fenrir, the wolf, who grew so big that the Asgardians, they wanted to bound this wolf. But they knew that this wolf was going to come at Ragnarok and cause a whole heap of mayhem and problems. So they wanted to bound it. They bounded it with some other stuff and it never worked. So they went to the dwarves and they created some magical silk rope, which they bounded around around its legs. But in order for them to do that though, because the wolf wasn't didn't desire to show its strength no more. So he said that somebody, for me to do this, they have to offer up a sacrifice So then Tyr went forward and offered him his left arm. And then he said, no, I want your right arm, your sword arm, your arm that represents your strength and might. And knowing it's all a trick, he know he's going to lose his arm, he still placed his arm in there. The wolf get bounded and it couldn't break the bonds. And then it ended up biting off his arm. So this is our, so the arm itself, again, is a sign of sacrifice as well as strength and as well as power and reverence and praises. So when we look into the Christian way, Christianity, we call this the arms of God. We find in Isaiah 40:10, behold, the Lord God comes with might, and his arms rule for him. And there are many quotes in the Bible of the might of God and it being represented through his arms. But when we take this a little deeper and we look into it, we come to find that we have a left and a right arm, and they have different meaning. The left arm is dealing with punishment and restraint. It's there to keep a lid on the sin of sinners. Interesting one. That whole term sin, I have to probably go into that another time then. But it's the same in Islam, the same with this concept of the left hand and doing stuff with the left hand and then eating with the right hand. So we go into the right hand, we observe that it refers to power and the ruling arm of justice. On the right arm, the right hand side, the right arm of God, Jesus Christ be his right arm, referred to this ruling power of justice. Strength and comfort this right arm brings. Interesting. So we've got this right arm representing this energy here of ruling, and his left arm representing the slaying. Or you could say left arm, if you're going to use this language, for the bad stuff, right hand for the good stuff. And that's generally how they narrowed it down in Islam. Literally, should not wipe your bottom with your right hand. Done this in the old times in the Europe, where they had this left and right hand difference going on. But it's because of this Christianity. So we transform this. They transform, or should I say, they add this now. Because we have this term where we raise up our arms in praise or also to plead, like a sign of surrender, a sign of, okay, take me away, okay, I'm done, I'm finished. Or you're praying. How we saw a lot of those depictions earlier on. So in Christianity, this is the term that's given to it. Lifting up the hands. And there are quite a few different postures when you go into it. There's about 15 of them. Different arm postures representing a different part of a ritual process. Quite interesting. I was going to add it, but we take that out. So now, as we look into this left and right arm, we acknowledge with the left, we're looking at a past, present, and in the right, we're looking at a present, future. The past being the left and the right being the future. So when we're looking at the arms, with the right arm, observing the future, when we have arm pain, whether it be ascend from the shoulder, whether it be in the arm itself, the bicep, the tricep, or the forearm, we just needed that part there. those are all parts of the body which create movements which allow for the hands to manipulate the world quite precisely. But it's the forearm and the arm that allows your hand to get there. So, and this is the mechanism that gets you there. It gets you there. The hand may control and manipulate, but the arm get you there. So it's this idea now, the idea that in our life, when we have an issue with getting something, and it's different from going somewhere. We was talking about the lower limb last week, the week before, and getting to the promised land. It's a bit different. But we got there now. We make it there. So we've materialized in that location, we've manifested, but now the idea is how to manipulate the surroundings, the space. How do we take control of reality around us in our immediate reality? And what expresses this is the actual arm itself. When we have an inability to manipulate the world around us, to actually take hold of it, we're not talking about the intricate movement, the fine weaving. It's like going to grab a glass of water. The arm got you to get that glass of water, but it's the hand that took hold of it. The hand may have taken hold of it, but in order for you to be successful in this one here, your arm's going to have to bring it back to your face or to your mouth. So it's this idea of being able to retrieve that which you desire. So when that's a problem now, if we're with me now, when that's a problem, an inability to retrieve that which you desire, you make it there now. If that's a problem, psychologically, energetically, we can have manifestations in the arm, elbow, forearm. The elbow being the supporting structure, the hinge between the two realities, dependent upper or lower. So we have this going on here, and we're looking at the right still. So that is observing the future. That's a concern and a worry. Possibly. You're concerned that you won't be able to make the situation unfold the way you want it to go, the way you want it to turn out. It may not turn out that way there. It's these kind of concerns and thoughts that manifest into the arm area. And that will be the right. We're looking at the left. There are concerns in the past here, but we weren't able to retrieve that which we desire. We weren't able to get it. It was so close, but we never, that kind of thought being in our present mind can affect our present moment. We can have discomfort, pain, tightness, the same way in our bicep or forearm area. And all these things here are like the basic idea to expand outwards. So it's this awareness here, inability to get that which you desire. And we're not talking about the manipulation of what you desire, because that's in the hands. So that's looking at it from an energetic point of view. When the thought forms manifests and the brainwave releases and it goes through the body, then it resonates with different parts of the body. This is when the term sin that was mentioned a few moments ago with the left arm is intriguing, because the term sin is synonymous with the word sine wave. And sine wave is a rhythm or frequency. It's out of the 0 point. From the 0 point of stillness, there is no sound wave. It's just potentialness, potential energy. And then from that potential space there, we have a waveform that takes place. From the dot, we have a line. From the line, we have troughs hills, we have up and down, ebb and flow. And this is what is considered, or this is the original sin, which is multiple options on the timeline, multiple options. This is why I come back to the arms, multiple options that you can take a hold of. Because once you're there, it's what you do. And it's what you do now. How is that? Is your thinking impaired? Is when you start to manifest these and we can do it through overtraining as well. And then because of that rigid thought process, we end up having rigid arm. So that's looking at it from energetic point of view for a moment, looking at it from this psychological, psycho-emotional point of view, with how energy expresses itself and manifests. And we know we always have a wonderful remedy for such things. Exercise. Just exercise the arms. Man, there are some postures, even a simple posture like this, with the hands up, extremely effective. So we have our basic movements that's going on here with the arms. So we already observed through Christos's presentation, we already observed the muscles and the structures that connect. So now we see these muscles and structures as a continual tissue from the trapezius. If you look at the lower image on the left-hand side there, the trapezius, like a diamond shape from the lower part, approximately T12 up to occiput and going out, but it goes over the shoulder. And then it ascends down the back of the arm, forearm into the hands. But then that's what we call the superficial backline. Then we have a deep backline. So these muscles that we were just looking at, they're on various layers. And the deep one, a lot of the time, is what we're really working through. Because the superficial ones generally are the ones that do a lot of the heavy loading stuff. So we have a few different movements. The movement which in Tai Chi, for a lot of people, quite challenging, that the bottom left image, where you're doing that rotation there, where you're rotating your arm inwards and then you go outwards. And we do it in a circular motion, where your shoulder is fixed and you're moving around. Very effective movement, because then we learn how to not engage the shoulder during the movement of the arm. That disengaging the shoulder reduces tension or strain, or even, in many cases, the bicep tendon in the bicep groove, in the glenohumeral joint itself, causing problems. When we reduce that movement there, if you have shoulder issues, when we reduce it, we reduce the pain. And as we're moving through, the muscles then stretch. So we can see something also that's very important when it comes to the arms. This is why we mentioned the back. It's very important. This one here, we talk about this so often. I don't even know if it's noticed that that it's the back that holds up the arms. The arms ain't holding up themselves. It's the back. So if you look at that back on the top left image that's moving, we can see a bit of this going on. How when you're rotating the arm backwards, the muscles stretching and moving around and contracting. And the arms are quite loose, even though we're rotating the shoulder with the intention of moving the arm. We can see it is not directly an arm movement, it's a back and shoulder movement. These deep back and superficial line that go along the arms to the fingers are the ones doing it. But when we have this internal, external rotation at the elbow, then we can see that's more isolated as an arm movement. And it's really important to distinguish this. when practicing Qigong, when elevating arms or moving them, you really want the movement to come from the back, not the shoulder. You want to feel the back move, or the back contract, or the back relax. When it comes to elevating, move the arm in front to the side, it doesn't really matter. Just like that bottom right diagram shows here, when raising the arm above the head, how we see and observe the latissimus lengthening and the tissues underneath. And the arm is just really being stabilized, even though we can see the muscles are there, but they're not being utilized. So it's that distinction that we need to be aware of when doing exercises, working with the arms, when we're doing the arms, and we have to use the shoulders, being aware the connection to the back. And when we're using the arms, and we're doing it from the elbow or the wrist, and we're aware and isolating the shoulder and doing the movement from there. Important to practice these movements independently. And as we do that, we improve circulation, blood flow. This is one of the main things that allows us to improve our healing abilities, as an example. The blood flow, the energy flow, the oxygen, the stuff that's moving along, the heat. The infrared, ultimately, when it comes to the hands, but we're here observing that you can shift and change your blood pressure depending upon how you're using your arms, how long you elevate them. So we have certain movements in Qigong where you raise the arm above the head, either to reduce high blood pressure or low blood pressure, to affect either of them. And then we have other postures to accompany those arm positions as well. And that, again, is just to shift the way in which the blood is flowing. That's a very important movement to actually practice. This elevating the arms above the head and to relax the shoulders. In that situation, a lot of the time, the nerves can get trapped. So it takes time to unlock that potential there. We also have, once we're doing all that stuff there, those lovely movements that we just observed, you also have the lymphatic system, the lymph node underneath the armpits and going along the arms. If we have a problem along this system here, drainage can be an issue as well. Drainage can be a problem. The lymph nodes are working with the spleen down there on the left-hand side of the body. And in that space there is a creation. In that space, every 29 days, there is a seed or a germ that's created in the space there. And to facilitate that whole production there, the arms are involved in the circulating and the movement. The movement itself, different stages take different length of time. And there are stages where the vagus nerve is involved and the arms are important in order to support the movement, but also one's mental and emotional state in order to help to cultivate this process there. This is the internal alchemy that takes place. This is different from the cerebral spinal fluid that we sometimes refer to, and this river of life, river of light that flows and nourishes. That oil is a bit different when we talk about transforming from water to wine, where it takes place in the colostrum. But this is a bit different because these two things come together. We have on a particular day, and that day being when your sun sign is in your moon sign in a month. It's about 2 days, 2.5 days. So if you're Taurian, when Taurus when the moon is in Taurus of any month, this is when this germ is created in the spleen, but its movements are facilitated through the vagus nerve, which is through your breathing, and also doing certain movements and arm positions, stimulates the motion. It's stimulated because of the lymphatic system, which creates like a peristaltic kind of motion to actually infuse the germ. And this is like a stem cells we're looking at, is this kind of cell, what we're looking at, like a stem cell that's created in the spleen around this time here, and which is circulated through the body. But we are going to touch this one here, probably in a few lectures time, like the whole process. Different parts of these presentations have been looking at different parts of the same cycle, the same process that takes place. But as the arms help to move the lymph through the body, around the body, and this is why it's important, and this actual internal alchemical process, nourishing the oil or the cerebral spinal fluid, and also the generation of this, the stem cells in the manger or in the spleen where it's born. 29, every 29 days and a half. So we practice our internal training to take a hold of this. The internal training is not just a physical practice. There are concepts, ideas, ways of thinking, because this is why we do our mindfulness, our breathing, our meditation. Facilitated with the movements. This is what helps to drive this whole internal process. So we have in our arms, meridian channels or energy pathways, which connect to the fingertips, where we're doing mudras. We're connecting and stretching these lines here, where we're doing our tapping. So if we're tapping on the right arm, on the inside, and we do this here from the palm coming up the inner arm and then going down. And if you're on the inside, you can see we are stimulating the lung pericardium, which is the heart, and the heart. And as we're going on the outside, it's the yang meridians. We're stimulating the large meridian, the triple heater, and the small intestines. And all these connect back internally to the body. These energetic pathway. So when we're doing our tapping along the arms, it's these particular meridians that we're stimulating. Lungs, pericardium, heart, be the yin meridians, the internal, and the yang, which is the external on the outside, be the large intestines. The large intestine descending from the outside of the shoulder down to the index finger. The triple heater, that's like connecting the three dantians together, going to the ring finger, and the small intestines from underneath the arm going to the little finger. These are the yang on the outside. Interestingly, the small intestines and the heart, they're on the same finger, with the small intestine on the outside, and on the inside, you have the heart. So when you go to the little finger at the tip, on the inside, then you hold the heart. And then when you go on the outside, you're in the small intestines on the little finger. If you massage and press the two of them, then you're stimulating that actual meridian channel. So when we're doing those particular massages or stimulating the fingers, then these are the channels that we'll be working on. So we're appreciating that we have these meridian lines, these channels, and through doing certain movements, through balancing yin and yang, it's all about balancing this yin and yang, the inner and the outer, the opposite forces. We create harmony in our body. Through doing flowing type movements, we can achieve this. And we will do these movements with a breath, with breathing, slowly, internally. And as we do this, we start to feel an expansion take place through our body, balancing these qualities internally. Through static movements, we have this concept on a basic static posture, this basic one here, holding the ball. Everything wants to be round. Your elbow truly wants to be pointing more downwards than out to the side to take the pressure off the shoulders. And you start to become aware of this. As you practice a stance like this, you become more aware of how to hold stuff, how to stand. Your arm ends up taking up, your shoulder takes up less stress because your arm ends up in your back as you're making this ball and your scapula sticks to your ribs. A very basic technique holding the ball, however, a very powerful technique to strengthen the shoulder, arms, forearm, and hands. And this is the last one actually, because we have one's hidden power. No, we got many a hidden power. But you see this radius and this ulna, this rotation, the ability for it to move over itself. This is in Tai Chi, this is the hidden power. Because it's a movement when you're touching an opponent or when you're pushing hands or you're doing a movement. It's a movement which is hard for the person to detect and to counteract effortlessly. It's like you have to be at a really good level to be able to detect it and also to resist the force that comes from that movement there, because it's quite sudden and short and unexpected. It has a lot of potential when delivering a punch. It's the same power that is utilized when rotating your forearm at the last moment. That's to maximize the power. Because as you twist over and the bones reinforce themselves, they develop or gather more strength. So this particular movement in Tai Chi is trained independently to enhance its power of being able to move without the person knowing you're moving. Yeah, it's quite interesting when we are able to apply this. And also when we can apply this with force, which would be a sudden thrust, like that. It takes a simple push where the person just pushes back a little to like a thrust where they bounce out of the space as opposed to they just push that. You push them, they just went back slowly. It's like there's a sudden shock, a sudden spring, then they carry on going back. They provide a sudden jolt. Yeah, so I think that is the presentation for today, as we've just gone through, really appreciating the general anatomy of the shoulder, the arm and the forearm, connecting the muscles together, appreciating how all this flows as one, although we observe them independently, but also how we utilize the arms in our day-to-day activity, how we use them as expression, how we use them as strength to take a hold of something. That strength that was expressed in the old world was expressed through the arms. The ability to take hold and to see something was to show your true strength over something else. And that was done with the arms. They take these same arms here and give thanks to God It's the balance of reality. So any questions there?
Nice. Yeah. I was going to ask about mudras. You know the mudras,
Oh,
but is that more hands? Would that go into more hands?
mudra is definitely more hands we're looking at there. And then
Okay.
there was a little bit there. There was a little description of the hands, but as we're looking at the arms, like yeah, we have to leave that on there for another time.
Okay.
Yeah, but the arms get you there in the position to do your mudra, though, isn't it? The arms get you there, and that's the whole thing. That's what we're looking at today: the ability to get there.
Okay.
When you're there, it's the ability to take hold, the ability because to hold between two arms or to hold between two hands is two different holding. Well, yeah, we should definitely assess that one there, the mudras next time.
Yeah. And any other questions from the people? Nothing in the chat.
I just wanted to ask, Sahu. Yeah, it's very interesting what you were saying about the like drawing down the heavens when you raise your hands up, and you're coming down, and the impact that that has, you said, on the heart and the lymph. Yeah, so I've been just learning about one way of doing it. Well, obviously I've done it before with you, but also other times where you're in a static posture, more or less. You're not moving your body up and down, but you raise the arms up and you bring it down. But there's another one where the arms are going counter to the body. So as you're raising your arms, your body is sinking. As you're lowering your arms, your body is straightening. So could you explain a little bit about then what's happening in the body in that second one, or how they're different, why they cause different effects on the blood pressure? What?
But we'll be looking at it from the length of the breath or the yin yang, the in and out of the breath. So when we're breathing in, it's that expansive quality, and when we're breathing out, it's that contracting quality. Because that movement you're referring to, I'm assuming it was for it to work, for it to be effective, it has to be like seen in this way here, where when you're going down and you're breathing, so let's say you're breathing in and you're going down, but then that going down, as you expand your arms upwards and you're expanding your diaphragm and stretching the organs and opening up the space, the intercostal, and as you're coming back up and you're compressing the two spaces together, as the arms is coming back down and the body is coming back up.
Yeah.
Coming back up now, I have to do the breathing pattern correctly to make sure I'm saying it correctly. I don't even want to say it wrong.
It's all right. Yeah.
I gotta say it right because because we can say this just to flow off of the mouth and it can be correct, yeah. I just gotta make sure I'm seeing the movement in my mind. I'm doing the breathing pattern correctly and I'm saying it, yeah, like I'm actually literally just done it. Yeah. So then as we're so we breathe in and then we expand, so we should be going up.
The hands are going up.
Yeah. So we breathe out and we should be going down.
Body's good.
Hey, that's legs. With the arms, we breathe in, the arms expand, we breathe out, the arms should come down. We breathe in, the arms expand, because everything is stretching and opening up. Everything has an ability to have more blood flow. And then as we come down and breathing out, and as we're breathing out and compressing the area, it's like that blood flow also is not increasing its flow. So it's really being concentrated in the abdominal, the thoracic, the organ area where it's being and that is like bringing the energy in and expanding. So really, it's all to do with the ability to expand and contract in relation to the breath cycle. And depending upon what you're doing is how you opening up. And depending how your arm position is, whether it's to the side, then you're focusing and opening up that particular organ more.
Okay, right. That's giving me a better understanding. But there's, sorry, there's
Go
also
on.
the thing about not raising the shoulders. So you were showing how the arm movement is actually related to the back muscles, or the scapula, did you say? So the shoulders shouldn't have anything to do with it. So the shoulders shouldn't be raising.
It should not be raising. And we
Yeah.
call that sinking the shoulders. When you sink the shoulders, it's like your shoulder becomes your back, and then your that scapula through the rhomboids are attaching to the spine. But then also you have your latissimus muscle underneath here, and also you have your trapezius muscle here, all doing supportive work, as well as your chest muscle here. But this one here, we're sinking, retracting. So in using your chest muscle, it's like you're bringing your shoulders back. Using your chest. Then you're using your trapezius to drop you down, but you're using your rhomboids to connect your back to your spine, to your ribs. So we call that sinking the shoulders. But when we do that now, and we do a movement, it's like from the elbow to the wrist to the fingertip, all that's quite floppy. From wrist back to elbow, when shoulder sunk. But when shoulder's not sunk, your shoulder can just be doing the movement as well, where it's not supposed to. It's supposed to just be. That's an art, though. That's an art to capture that one there.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you for giving me a bit deeper understanding. Thank you.
And and you got a better clarity on this other question that you asked before that. Because it's a big topic what you asked there. That one question prior about how it affects the organs and the breathing and the different movement of the body, this yin yang quality. Yeah, because the yin and yang is not just movement, but it's a length of breath as well. The yin breath, and it's also not just the length, but it's also the quality of the breath, how forceful the breath is. Then all this also affects the organs. So you can have a yang breath here. So let's say breathing hard is yang, and then breathing long is also yang. Yang yang. But let's say no, because yang is breathing long, but short is yin. So let's say you got breathe heavy and you breathe short, then that's yin yang. That's like neutralize itself. But so we also got this level in the breathing, in the movement. The quality, the length, and the movement. All these things here is a balance of the yin yang quality in an exercise.
Yeah, gosh, you can go on and on and on, isn't it, really?
I'm telling you, because we know there's another layer to this thing here, but we start going to different parts of the body and start yin and yang it up. So we leave that for now. But it's true, we can endlessly. So any other questions there as we look into the arms this evening? Yeah? Because I think we're over time anyway. I think we'll be wrapping it up in a few moments, if there isn't any more questions. I hope everyone got a deeper awareness of the nerves, the blood circulation, the lymphatic system, the actual muscles, the tendons and the bones, the joints. This is the aim here.
Well, thank you very much. Got some clarity.
Yeah.
On that part of the body.
It's so important to be able to visually see it, see the actual nerve move underneath the clavicle, and to know that impingement can happen so easy just through this compression here. And then we have the subclavian muscle underneath it, which makes it worse. You've got a muscle attached right to the clavicle there underneath the bone. And when that one there takes on too much work, because the trapezius isn't is too tight, then hair does too much work, then that compresses that nerve even further. So it's nice to see a visual image of these things. Always.
Yeah. So would you say, Brother Sahu, that some of the nerve pathways they follow, or the meridians follow the nerve pathways?
Interesting.
Yeah, no, definitely, definitely. Because when you're looking at even the lymph nodes, the nerves, the arteries, I mean, everything kind of travels in a
Yeah.
course, and they're all intermingling.
And
I mean, and the reality,
don't they
say
use
that again?
don't they use the nerves as a reference point for the meridians?
Yeah, well, I, w- I remember, I don't know if I read it or I was speaking to someone about it, but they was talking about, I think it was in a book, and it was mentioning that the meridians
Mm-hmm.
and the lymphatic. So they were saying that usually when we're moving our calf muscles and that helps with the lymphatic return
Yes.
to the lymph nodes. But it was also describing how not only that, but also how our meridians also help to guide the lymphatics back to their nose in the absence of us moving our calf muscles.
Mm.
And then when you really think of it anyway, like
The electron flow.
everything's from the what one?
That would be electron flow. Would that just be the electrons flowing?
Yeah,
The protons.
yeah. I mean, when when you put it like that,
Electron flow. Yeah. Because this is what it looks like in my mind, like a river of electrons, even though we have nerve
yeah,
impulse. But nerve impulse is different. Nerve impulse is
yes,
neurotransmitters.
yeah, and it seems very much muscular.
Yeah.
When we're looking at our nerves, it has its course,
It has its
it
course.
has its destination.
So Christos, hold on. So we got this lovely saying here. Thank you for a minute, Sankofa there. We have what we call vein.
Uh,
I remember when I studied vein, artery, and nerves.
oh yes, yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
van. Yeah, that's how the whole thing is transported. But we also have, which they didn't add into it, the L for the lymphatic, because there's a lymph system associated in that same along that pathway there. It's intricate.
Hmm.
And then what also was not mentioned is also um this electron pathway. But it's interesting
Yeah.
because like the vagus nerve, yeah, they
Hmm.
they connect the vagus nerve to like because it's a nerve, but they refer to it like the idea that you can with your breath, the electrons and the energy that's coming in from your breath, it travels along the vagus nerve. But in order for that to happen,
Mm.
they have to transform into a neurotransmitter at the blood
All
barrier
right.
in the lungs. There has to be some kind of transformation to take place for it to travel up the vein, the vagus nerve,
Yes, yeah.
as a representative of the breath.
Mm.
Yeah, man. So we
And then that I mean, w what about even just the pressure of all the diaphragm on the nerve itself?
yeah,
So
because
is there some mechanical transformation that's happening through
maybe
the breath?
so, maybe so. Maybe it's
Mm.
more of a parasympathetic and a sympathetic reaction, as opposed to
Yeah.
the idea of ref particles, so to speak, or the
Well, I
electron.
think, I mean, when you think of it, there's so much things that happen in the body where this mechanical movement stimulation is transferred into all these chemical reactions.
That's what we're ultimately doing, though, Christos. Them
Yeah.
lifting the arms and the thinking in a certain way is creating a certain type of neurotransmitter. that chemical is being sent along the neural pathway. That's what we're doing, isn't it? We hand up in prayer and praises, yeah, and we're thinking that thought in our mind. We're creating those neurotransmitters to go along those nerves. We're creating a whole new set of information from the thought transformed into a nerve impulse or into a chemical. A thought transformed into a chemical. It's true. So back to the question though, it is like it's moving, I would say it's moving alongside with in the vicinity, as opposed to saying that is a nerve.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, when you really look at it, the way the body is designed, it's like where else would it
I
go?
don't know. What do you say, other than
You
along the
know?
nerve?
I mean, in the same course, I mean, when you
Yeah, yeah.
look at it,
Because
yeah,
you see the
it's
thing is,
like,
yeah, it's the vacuum of space, Christos. It's the vacuum. It's the space here where those vessels aren't, is where these electrons are moving. It's not to say that there's no space there, it's space. So it's like these channels here have been observed of a propulsion of energy.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, the Chinese acupuncture is still healing people to this day.
I'm telling you.
And, even I still get a lot of clients that's told me they've had acupuncture. Okay, yes, I do the acupuncture for the musculoskeletal problem, but I'm talking about Chinese acupuncture, where people are getting cured or better from fertility issues, headaches, all these other problems that conventional medicine, Western medicine, is not usually alleviating.
And
People are getting benefit.
you gotta think about that because the acupuncture needle, when it penetrates the skin, it's acting as an antennae, antennae.
Mm.
It's picking up electrons. It's
Yeah.
picking up
Well,
the energy in the atmosphere and causing the frequency, the vibration is going through that needle and bringing energy into that space. This is the thing going on.
well, they do use copper at the end of every needle is copper.
See, to increase that energetic transference. So
Yeah,
then
and I
if you go
I
too deep,
pers no, go ahead.
if you go too deep, you make blood.
Mm.
If you touch the wrong
Mm.
part, you touch a nerve. So we know
Yeah.
like those are not the correct location.
Yes. Yeah. And when you do the acupuncture, you realize and quickly learn that there's parts of the body that invites the needles,
Hmm.
and these parts of the body that invites the needles, usually there's like a dip or some type of sulcus or something, which is very inviting.
Space.
Yeah. It is space.
Space. Because that's what acupuncture, when I first was studying acupuncture, I
Mm.
discovered the term meant, and I adopted this term in my practice. And the term means a quiet place to meditate.
Mm.
Quiet place, but in a quiet place, it's usually empty, isn't it?
Yes. Yes.
I think it's that dip you're referring to, and that space there is that hollow space, is this quiet space, this restful space. We want to just like getting into bed. Just want to just it's got a little space for you to feel comfortable in.
Mm. So, yeah, Jamie's put, yep, a great sister did a chat yesterday on acupuncture and it helping cure addiction. And then we got a question from VG about the creating of neurons, etc. Can Tai Chi treat Alzheimer's?
Yeah. They've done some research on that as well with Alzheimer's
Mm,
and different condition, neurological conditions. The fortunate thing is we have some neuroplasticity going on through the practice of such a thing. So through through the slow repetitive motions and movements and the holding postures, and the stuff has to be done at a lower degree, but it has to be done every single day. And as a result, it had been shown to improve Alzheimer's. Definitely.
Yeah, so scientifically speaking, they it's said that there's no cure for Alzheimer's. I mean, definitely with the Tai Chi, you don't want to be starting when you're getting Alzheimer's. It's something you do to prevent Alzheimer's.
But you know those people then who knows how deep they've really gone with it over in the Beijing hospitals. They're working with different people with those conditions then other conditions. But a lot of those people,
Mm,
they're not doing it because they've done Tai Chi before. They may have had a healthy lifestyle before that. I'm not saying, I'm
mm,
not too sure of their state of how they live. In a lot of these cases, these researchers, maybe that's got a large factor in it, how they actually are able to benefit from the movement so quickly, their lifestyle before. But mostly people not practicing Tai Chi prior to that.
no, no.
We're still looking at something like this from was it 6 weeks to was it 6 months, and going through various different stages of changing different increasing changing the different routines, observing pain, discomfort, lack of clarity, the mind starting to get clarity and order. It's like there's a lot of stages to go through. It's all I always say that because I
Mm,
observed the form that we do, the Bao Dao Jin, the gentleman done a lot of research in the 80s with the particular form that we do in one of those Beijing hospitals. And then in the research, it shows how, like a chart of different feelings, sensations, expectations, and week 1, 2, 1 month, 3 months, it shows that to what degree, whether shoulder soreness high by 6 weeks, you may have 1 star because the shoulder pain is now longer gone down to 1 where it was 3 before. Cognitive awareness or your cognitive functioning or the ability to pick up a pattern, it may be really poor. So you have 3, 4 stars. By the time you get to 8, 9 weeks, you've gone down to 2, maybe 1, depending. So you're able to pick up patterns much better. You're actually to see the pattern, recognize it, repeat it. But all this is reorganizing, because the thing with the brain, you have brain damage here. And what they found is like we can take brain cells from one part of the brain and send them to another part of the brain, basically. We can just send brain cells somewhere else. And so we're not really growing in that sense. This neuroplasticity is like changing one cell to another type of activity within the brain. So that's how this thing
mm,
is taking place, neuroplastically. Over
mm.
time, Christos. But again, you would say that's a holistic perception, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's it's always keeping that open mind because what we're finding more and more about the body, that the bodies do more and more amazing things.
Give it a
And then
chance.
in 10 years' time, someone's going to mention a totally new system
You know,
that we haven't heard about.
we gotta give it a
And
chance, Christos. Give the body a chance, man, to do all that what you just said.
Jamie's put bet fasting helps with that.
What's
Is
that?
it, I bet fasting helps.
Oh,
I
yes,
think
yes. Fasting helps. Well, you say fasting helps with nearly all conditions. There's a few, unless you have gut issue or a disease of the gut, the alimentary canal, then generally fasting is like the magic is the magic wand, isn't it?
mm,
Magic wand, because what it is because we've been talking about neurotransmitters and the information that can get stuck that can get corrupted. That when it gets through, when the blood is going through the gut, that can get binded. So then as a result, it's no longer that which it is. I mean, this same spleen that we mentioned ever so briefly, and the stem cells that is created on every once a month, and it's generated and it goes through the body, that can be extremely inhibited. Right. I think I'm satisfied. Unless
Yeah.
unless you got something to add on to there.
I mean, fasting, it's one of those miracle things, you know. I think there was one research on how fasting increases the neuroplasticity. And then when we're looking at fasting, we've got to remember that eating and stuff like that, it takes up so much energy anyway, and it's constant cycle. And then, you know, most of us, you know, we're not even eating the right things.
Yeah.
And then most of us, even if we're eating the best of the things that we can eat, you know, it's still never 100% righted.
Well, because of all
And then
the pesticides.
well, with all the pesticides, the chemicals, I mean, you just, you
Name.
know, if if you're going to your supermarket, I won't say any names before they try and close down the channel, but the major ones, I mean, that's not a tomato, that's not a banana, and you know, deep down you really know it. You know, the other day I went into Tesco and you know, I went to touch a strawberry, and you know, the strawberry kind of frightened me.
Hmm.
You know, it just didn't look right. So there's all of these things that our body is constantly working, we're constantly battling, you know, and you know, fighting to always keep a balance. But then as soon as we stop eating, then you know, it frees up the energy for our body to do other things,
That's right.
you know. Um, so I think it's very important to fast, and a lot of things that we do on a regular basis is always that extreme, or you know, maybe not extreme, but definitely the significant detox that we need to go through.
Wash out them old thoughts. Wash out
Mm,
them that old information.
yeah. And then we always talk about fasting in terms of food. We need to fast from people, fast from social media, you know, even just fasting the space around us.
True. It's true. Because
And
we're inundated.
mm, and then we see how quickly neuroplasticity can occur.
It's true. The focus of the body will definitely increase. But at the moment, when we are inundated with Wi-Fi or the different frequencies that are in our environment, that's the next thing
Mm,
that is saying
hmm.
we need space from. So we go to a park or we go amongst trees. So then in that
Yeah.
space there, we're having a fast from the frequencies that are in our environment.
Hmm. Hmm.
Ever so important. We definitely went
Yeah.
over than what I expected today. Mm,
Yeah, no, thank you everyone for participating. And then, so next time we are going to touch on biotensegrity, the myofascia. Yeah, which is
bioconsequence.
a interesting topic. I like this
Yeah.
subject
And we have
because
touched
it
it.
relates to everything. We
Yeah,
have.
yeah, it does relate to everything. It connects all the dots, everything.
Mm.
But goodness, I think hopefully Christmas will go through that stuff there. I want to see if I can go somewhere else. But it connects all the dots back together. But how far can you go back to the dots being connected? What's beyond that? Well,
Mm.
we'll see. Biotensegrity. So that's a nice one.
Ah, well, good evening. Good night, I should say. And
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, bless you both. It's
I
great
hope,
evening's presentation.
yeah.
thank
Have a
you.
wonderful evening. And we look forward to catching everybody next time as we go through this the whole body, trying to connect
Mm,
everything together, and understanding it from this point of view.
yes, yeah,
Holistically, we're done with the segregation and the separation. Everything come from one, and now we're just trying to appreciate the duality of the oneness. Good
right.
night,
Good
everybody.
night now. Right,
Mhm.
bye.
All right,
Bye
good
bye.
night.